2:14 a.m., 8 Ukrainian long-range strike drones crossed the last 40 kilometers toward Cheboksary at 160 an hour. Low, steady, and aimed at one building 900 kilometers from the country that launched them. Inside sat a building Russia had every reason to hide and every reason to fear losing. One of the most heavily guarded targets in the country. Before dawn, one strike would take it off the map. The crews defending it were awake, ready, and about to win, which was the whole problem. They had a steel cage strung over the workshop, built to swat these drones down, and their screens read clean of anything heavier. That was the mistake. Behind the drones, once the cage had spent itself on the wrong threat, something larger and faster was already crossing in, and it would reach the workshop before the crews understood what it was. The 8 drones crossed the last belt of defenses at 2:11, the second time Ukraine had come for VNIIR-Progress, and this time the Russians were ready and certain, sure the thing coming back would wear the last one's shape, a slow drone they could catch at the wall. It was a good bet. It would still lose them the building. The 8 split as they came in, propeller machines a few meters across, built to fly 1,000 kilometers on a stored course and drop a small warhead onto a fixed target. 5 driving straight at the plant, 3 peeling south across the city. Across Russia that same night, other Ukrainian strikes were already burning and the warning net was full. So this raid read as one more drone sector among many. 2 lines came in at once, and the defense could look hard at only one. The 3 southern drones did their work just by existing. Flown wide on a line that looked like a raid of its own, they lit a fresh threat sector on the regional plot, and the air defense covering that side of Cheboksary swung south to meet them. Tracer climbed over the suburbs, 2 came apart over open ground, and the 3rd lost its link and went nose down into a field, warhead unspent. Not one had ever been pointed at anything. They were there to be seen, and the city's guns went to them. While the southern sky filled with Tracer, the 5 that carried the raid bored straight in on the plant, unwatched by everything now pointed the wrong way. That was the feint's whole payoff. The guns that might have thinned the 5 to 2 were 40 kilometers south, killing machines built to die. The 5 reached the plant intact and met its 2 defenders alone. The Tor-M2 fired first, a tracked, short-range system that holds 4 targets at once and reaches about 12 kilometers. It caught the lead drone at 9 and put a single interceptor into it at a closing speed the little machine could do nothing about. The drone came apart 8 kilometers out, well short of the fence, and the Tor held the far edge with 3 channels still open, while the rest of the wave pressed in low into the Pantsir's close-in lane, where the near layer took them one by one. Then the Pantsir-S2 took the near work. 12 interceptors on its rails, 2 30mm cannons slung under the radar, and against drones crawling in at 160 an hour, it barely stretched. It killed the second with an interceptor at 6 kilometers. The 3rd hugged the ground for the wall. The Pantsir dropped its cannons onto it and tore it out of the air 2 kilometers out in a 2-second burst. 3 down. The 4th never reached the guns, a regional electronic warfare line, listening the whole way in for the faint satellite signal a long-range drone corrects its course by, caught the 4th as it crossed into range and fed it a lie, a Cheboksary sitting a few hundred meters off true. The drone turned obediently toward a city that was not there and flew itself into empty ground. 4 down and not a scratch on the workshop. Only the 5th got close, and it got close because of the 4th. With the Pantsir's cannons still settling from the burst that killed the 3rd, and the crew's eyes pulled to the spoofed drone drifting off into the dark, the 5th had a half-beat nobody was spending on it. It came in fast and low along the workshop's eastern face, under the gun's minimum angle, and for 1 second it looked like the one that would land. Then it hit the cage. A forest of steel towers strung with heavy netting over the roof, built to snag exactly this. The netting caught it a dozen meters short of the wall, and its warhead went off against the steel, out where the towers were built to take it. A hard flash, a torn panel, fragments scattered across the roofline, and nothing structural underneath. The workshop stood. 8 sent, 8 stopped, and the plant had one scorched panel to show for the whole raid. For a few minutes, nothing else came. The southern sector went quiet, and the screens around VNIIR-Progress cleared. In the Pantsir's cabin, the crew had done everything right and knew it. The threat they had built the cage for had come exactly as drilled, and they had beaten it. Then, at 2:29, a new return climbed onto the Pantsir's radar from the northwest, and it was wrong. Too big, too fast, holding better than 900 kilometers an hour, where every drone had crawled at 160. It flew a hard, flat line straight at the workshop, and in answer to nothing in the drone playbook the whole defense had been built around. The crew had one word for it, and it turned the night over. Not a drone, a cruise missile. The FP-5 Flamingo came on fast and flat, a Ukrainian ground-launched cruise missile the length of a small aircraft, subsonic but heavy, carrying a warhead of around 1,150 kilograms, more than 10 times what any drone had brought. It had crossed 900 kilometers to reach this one building. 4 kilometers out now, closing a quarter of a kilometer every second, 16 seconds to the wall. The jammer that had swatted the 4th drone could do nothing here. The Flamingo flew its own stored course, deaf to the satellite signal the electronic warfare line had cut. 16 seconds, and the crew spent the first of them just catching up to what they were seeing. Everything in the last 20 minutes had crawled in at 160 on a lazy line. This was 6 times faster and pointed straight at them. They did the only thing the clock allowed. They fired. 2 interceptors came off the rails and climbed to meet it. But at that closing speed, the window was a fraction of what the drones had handed them. Seconds, not minutes. And the first went wide of a target, moving faster and harder than anything the radar had solved all night. The second caught the Flamingo. It caught it late and off-axis, out at the edge of the workshop instead of over its heart. The warhead detonated anyway. 1,100 kilograms went off against the northeastern corner of the protective zone. Not the miss it looked like, but a blast that walked straight into the cage and kept going. It bent a whole row of towers off their footings. It tore a long sheet of netting down onto the ground. It blew the outer wall in along one face of the workshop, opened the roof edge above it, and lit a fire in the wreckage. When the smoke thinned, the building still stood. To the crews, it read as a save. The Flamingo had gone off outside, the workshop had held, and everything the cage was built to do, it had done again, even against this. The one thing none of them clocked was smaller and worse than any of it. One face of the workshop no longer had a shield of any kind. The netting that had killed a drone on that side an hour ago was on the ground. The towers were down, the wall was open, and 2 more Flamingos were still coming. The second Flamingo crossed the same radar at 2:31, 90 seconds behind the first and on almost the same line, and this time the crews knew exactly what it was. They had its speed now, they had its signature. The Tor-M2 had needed the first Flamingo just to catch up to a target this fast. Now, it swung onto the second with all 4 channels and locked it early, out past the Pantsir's reach, where the Flamingo was still just a big, fast, straight-flying body that did not jink and did not hide. This was the engagement the defense had been built to win, and it won it clean. The Tor put an interceptor up at 11 kilometers. For a second, the outcome hung. The interceptor climbing, the Flamingo boring straight in, a big, fast thing that did not know it had been solved. Then, the interceptor ran it down and broke it apart, well short of the plant. A heartbeat later, the Pantsir fired into the same piece of sky and finished what was falling. The second Flamingo came down 2 kilometers out and cratered empty dirt. It read as the answer to the whole night. Even the Flamingo could be stopped, and the Tor and Pantsir had just done it clean. 2 Flamingos in, and the workshop still stood. But the victory had already cost them the one thing they could not buy back. The first Flamingo had torn the shield off the northeastern face, and no one was going to rebuild it in 90 seconds. And every kill in the Flamingo run had landed later and closer than the last. They were fighting a weapon nearly 6 times faster than the one they had planned for. They were winning the shots and losing the ground. The next one would come on the one face they could no longer cover. The third Flamingo crossed in at 2:33, and it came on the worst line of all, the northeastern face, the one the first had already stripped to the bone. The cage that had killed a drone on that side an hour earlier was down. Towers bent, netting on the ground, the outer wall already open. Every layer that had made that face hard to reach was gone, and the last Flamingo was pointed straight through the gap the first had blown. The Pantsir crew fired. 2 interceptors, ripple-launched, up into the dark after a target crossing their envelope in seconds. The first went wide of a body moving far faster and harder than any drone that night. The second climbed true, closed, and found the Flamingo. And for half a beat, it looked like the same clean answer that had killed the one before. Then the pieces of the interceptor fell away and the Flamingo kept coming. A body that heavy, moving that fast, does not stop because a fragment goes through its skin. It was already low, already inside the last kilometer, and the mass of it stayed on the line into the wall. The cannons came up for the one pass they were going to get. But a target crossing at 1/4 kilometer a second gives 30mm guns only a few seconds, and the Flamingo spent them already past the barrels, dropping onto its final line. The rounds chewed the air behind it and hit nothing that mattered. There was no shot left that could reach it. The crew had done everything the night asked. Every drone stopped. The first Flamingo knocked off its mark. The second killed clean. They had just put an interceptor into the third and watched it come on anyway. The radar still held it, close and steady, on the one face they could no longer cover. And in the seconds left, there was no round that could catch it and no shield to meet it if there had been. For the first time all night, the crew that had won everything could only watch. They watched it go in. At 2:34, the third Flamingo struck the exposed northeastern section and detonated inside the building. The one thing no drone that night could do. The blast came from within. The roof let go, the reinforced floors pancaked one onto the next, and the shielded heart of the workshop folded into the pit and caught fire, a column standing over the plant until dawn. And the netting the first Flamingo had torn loose slid off its bent towers and settled over the rubble. The cage, finally, come to rest on the building it had been raised to save. By dawn, one building at VNIIR-Progress was a burned-out shell. Roof down, floors collapsed, the navigation unit workshop buried under its own concrete. The rest of the plant and the crews who defended it came through intact. The defense had not failed. Between the guns, the jammer, and the cage, all 8 drones were stopped, and the Tor and Pantsir even killed one of the 3 Flamingos, both still standing at the end. The cage did exactly what it was built to do against the weapon it was built for. The workshop was not lost because the defenders were beaten. It was lost because the first Flamingo tore the shield off one wall, and the third came back for it faster than anything they could stop. Somewhere to the west, the next Flamingo is already on a truck. The cage held. The workshop is gone.